good morning, Jax. How are you today?
I am fantastic, Wendy. How are you today?
Doing great, doing great. Mostly super excited because it's episode 10.
Episode 10, let's go. That's unbelievable. We're 10 episodes away from being in the top 1% of people to ever podcast. They say nobody makes it, only 1% of podcasts ever get to episode 20 and beyond. So we're halfway there.
Yay! We're almost over the hump. Yes, I love
Yeah,
it.
a lot of groove.
Yes, episode 10 then, guys. Well, welcome to putting the feel back in Tuesday, you guys. Yeah, let's do our intro then. We're leading in. So, welcome to our podcast. If you're new or just still with us, we're sort of dedicated to our inner growth and self-improvement and, just talking about feelings and how it relates to every day or just what's going on, validating our space and where we're at the time and in the week, and just offering a safe space to do that. So, I think we have some unique perspectives to provide sometimes for looking at those things and embracing our true selves. So, yeah, we are your hosts. I am Wendy.
And I am JC. Hope
Jay.
everyone's doing good.
Well, and welcome to our halfway point, guys. Great. I love reading the comments. I've seen the kitties
Yes.
that got posted after last week's episode. I tried very hard not to post I'll just put my whole PAX album on there.
You should
Pick
honestly.
one.
That's what it's for. I was um I was honestly very proud and impressed and amazed because sometimes in the episodes we'll throw out random things here and there, and I think the cat one was pretty late in the episode. So as the week was going on and I started seeing cats come up on the Facebook page, I'm like, wow, like means the world to me that people are listening and making it to the end of the episode. And
Yeah.
for some of you that have been core listeners from episode one, it's just yeah, it's amazes me. I love that we've come to love coming here every Tuesday to speak with each other, and then the listeners gather every Tuesday and leave comments. And some of you core listeners might realize every episode we get even a little more vulnerable ourselves because we only know so much of what everyone else is going through.
Right.
But Wendy and I are also human beings, and we
Mm.
have our own lives we've experienced and continue to experience, and we've been opening up a bit more, getting a bit more vulnerable. And last week I kind of said some stuff that was a little more personal, and gosh, I mean, it was super late in the episode, and I got so much messages and some comments about just the topic we were on, and yeah, it makes you not even the support you get afterwards, but just knowing that people cared enough to listen for an hour and a half means the world
Yeah.
to us, you guys. So thank you so much.
Yes, it does. It's kind of like dropping the little Easter eggs, right? That'd be fun to do too, right? Let's see if people listen.
No,
That's what I
literally.
mean. Yeah, I mean that whoever would ever have opinions of people in Taylor Swift, but one thing I enjoy that I just think is always super funny is the Easter eggs she's constantly dropping in videos, music,
Mm,
pictures on her albums and stuff like that. I love that. It's like a mini little caper.
yeah,
So yeah, it's great when someone comments on something that was later. Love it.
her brand, just the sidestep to Taylor here, her brand is absolutely genius. Like
Yeah.
they've got all the bases covered, but I didn't even realize she did Easter eggs, but that's a fun thing for Taylor fans.
Yeah, I'm not would qualify myself as a Swiftie to say I know what they all are, but I just remember her talking about them in an interview. Because I used to watch Ellen all the time. And so no matter who was on, I was watching it. And I was like, ooh, that sounds fun, like little Easter eggs. So if you just like Google a little the people that are into it's fun to see them and you're like, oh wow, that was smart. Like she spoke French here and it meant something 2 albums later or
Oh,
in that
wow.
video later. But the people that are used to it. So I little Easter eggs and, you know, seeing that people hang out all the way to the end because you've heard a comment about it or something. Totally agree. It's awesome.
I like the the karma's a guy on the Chiefs when she changed that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um, you said used to watch Ellen. Are you not on the Ellen show these days?
she stopped.
Did she?
Or did she start something somewhere else? It's like Oprah who retired, but she's got like 8 shows on other things.
Right.
No, I think she stopped her show. Yeah, like before. Oh no, not before COVID. Maybe it's been like 2 years or something since she stopped her show. Yeah,
Was
she's
this
done.
before or after the whole Ellen's a bully to everyone on set? That was after?
Yeah, she stopped after. I
Okay.
don't know if they correlate. I mean, she's probably never going to say they do, but um, yeah, I was going to say before COVID, but I think I remember her like doing some in her house, and then like the window wall behind her, Andy. You know how they always put Andy through so much, doing
Yeah.
stuff behind her. So maybe it was anyway. Yeah, no, I would always whoever was on. So yeah, I'd catch little snippets in those interviews.
I would always make the joke to Rob. So for those of you that don't know, when I ran across Canada, my best friend Rob left his job and his girlfriend, well, didn't leave his girlfriend physically, just physically he did. And basically everything, his pats everything behind to come help me for 99 days. And I always would joke to Rob that he's gonna have to write a book someday called Surviving Jax. The hidden stories of Jax on the road.
Well, I'm sure he could fill it because he had lots of time too, right? While you were live, once in a while he was also live with you, but he had hours to fill. I'm sure he could fill a book.
Yeah, pretty much with all my abuse to Leonard and there was some
True.
unbelievable stories and times we created out there, but hopefully there would never actually be a surviving Jack's book. I don't think I left enough trauma in him to need to write a memento about it, but time will tell.
Well, even just you can put it from a humor point of view too, of just all these crazy, things you encounter, not thinking you would. I'm sure you jump on that bandwagon and like, okay, so I'm going to be in charge, company and getting something to eat and whatever. And I'm sure all these things, seeing gorillas on the side of the road, like all that stuff that just showed up, I'm sure just created such a different experience, maybe that he wasn't fully expecting, but would make it so fantastic, right? That would all
Yeah,
make it in the book.
the spirits of best friends, that created its own story and journey in itself within the
Yeah.
journey. But it was almost like sailors lost at sea. So we did have human interactions in forms of outside of just him and I, but it's almost like when you're on an expedition like that, and it's just you two that are really going through it, um, and it's long, hard days. You
Yeah.
start to lose your mind a bit, like a sailor at sea when they see like a manatee and then they think it's a mermaid.
Yeah.
Um, that's when we're like the whole Corn Brother things came out because we were walking for so long and you barely ever see anyone besides each other. So I don't know why, the manatees became mermaids, but in our
Yeah.
minds, maybe your mind must like shoot out way more imagination just to keep yourself occupied because it's so
Yes.
mind-numbing. And that's how the corn became real life people, and there was little gnomes trying to kidnap us and everything in between, the gorillas on the highway. Well, that actually happened. There was a gorilla on the side of the highway. You would
Yes.
think that one was a figment of our imagination.
Yeah, that one was pretty awesome. Yeah, the Corn Brother thing. I mean, I think you're right. The mind probably creates a lot more, especially. I'm just gonna guess. I haven't been through much of Ontario, but especially that huge part of Ontario where you guys were just out of service and everything. So now you're like, oh Lord, less people. But I'm sure there was moments it was great to be disconnected. But yeah, then you guys are really just the two of you. I'm sure um, the adventures there and just yeah, your mind's got to keep yourself busy. You bet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to disconnect. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable journey. And If you know me, it only happened last year. I always say like I don't want it to be the only thing I talk about, but it's still, I mean, it's the biggest thing that just recently happened for me. I'm sure
Yeah,
as the podcast moves on and our lives move on, and the next thing for me is this book tour, there'll be a
right.
lot more references from both journeys. But as of right now,
Oh,
that's all I've
absolutely.
got.
Yeah, you got to keep it alive for the book tour too, right? Because it's all part of it. And come learn about my journey a little bit more too. It's sort of just like seems like a subsection of the fundraiser, which is great. You've been putting in so much hard work.
Yeah, well, if you can tell here, this beard is, I'm kind of like neglecting all self-care until this book gets done.
That's okay.
And this can't wait to get this whole beard trimmed off my skin. I've become the same pigmentation as an extraterrestrial. I'm definitely like to have a little more sun on my skin, but so be it. It's a part of life.
That's right. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Anyways, episode 10.
Yeah.
Get put the feel back in your Tuesday. I know, yeah, slow start to the day for me here, but I'm just feeling great vibes from you, Wendy, putting the feel in my Tuesday at least. Um,
Good.
this is a segment we like to do in our episodes every week where we like to talk about something that might have been the highlight or the downfall of our week
Yeah.
and kind of go into it a bit more. So, Wendy, let's put the feel back in your Tuesday this week.
Well, there's been some busyness, right? So that's always good. There was a full moon and it's eclipse season. We didn't get to see it here, so that always puts a big vibe. But it's sort of, sometimes the eclipse part of full moon is strong in new beginnings and change. And so with the weather, starting to turn a little bit, I'm like, okay, gonna keep with that declutter.
Did you say there was a solar eclipse? Did I like just
Uh,
blank quickly there?
there was one 3 or 4 days ago, but we didn't see it here.
Okay.
Um, although the east might have, like, its path was sometimes its path is wider, in my opinion, when I look at a map. This one seemed quite thin. I think there was parts of Ontario that seen it, and I can't remember if it went as far over as the
Mhm.
Maritimes. But yeah, there you put the full moon in with eclipse, and the eclipse season just kind of So yeah, just that strong, little overwhelming feelings this week of like, okay, gotta declutter, gotta get some things cleaned, and you just start to get into that feeling mode of, okay, we need to spring into action here. So a little bit of that, and um it's always fun when it might seem silly, but it's always fun when Spencer has a field trip because he's in high school. But it was a drama one, and so he gets to go see a play. It was a
Yes,
musical, and so I just whenever it's like that day's over, I'm always excited. Okay, okay, tell me all about it. Come home. I want to hear all. You get to go
absolutely.
do that. Yes. Oh, that was kind of fun. It was a Shakespeare one. So, he does really seem to enjoy live stuff, but this one he was a little bit like hard to understand,
Yeah.
Shakespeare
Oh,
talk. So yeah, there was a few different things in the pot this week that were kind of fun and different. I love that he's quite big into drama. So it's nice when he gets to do that. He's got a workshop coming up at the university where he gets to go for like 2.5 days, and it sounds like they take over the theater. So
nice.
they do some writing, they do some playing, they get to use the dressing rooms, they get to use backstage, like, and then they just clear it all out when they're done on the last day, and the next group comes in. So that sounds like super
That's
fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
Does he do drama with his school too? Like, does he perform?
He hasn't yet. I mean, he didn't start into drama till junior high, and then COVID, no one could do anything. And then there was a semester he couldn't get in because it was full. So and then this year, last semester was the performance, and he's in drama this semester. So it just sort of keeps missing. But in the class he does. But as
Nice.
far as the big one the school puts on, he might be able to. I don't know if there's one this semester, but he keeps COVID put such. I was so excited that he could get into that in junior high, and then everybody homeschool. Okay,
I
yeah.
know. Is he like have an interest in that where he'd want to pursue something in the arts afterwards, or he's
Mm,
just more creative, enjoys that kind of space?
yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of his friends are like, he needs to be a voice actor. Like he'll whip off an accent,
Oh, cool.
things like that. So yeah, he definitely, and the humor, he's got a mix of me and Steve's humor for sure. So y- he does talk about that going into that quite a bit. So
How's
yeah,
Steve doing?
that was kind of fun.
How's Steve doing these days?
Good, good. It's busy at work now. People are like, winter tires off. Like he's not in charge of tires, but he used to be. He's more on the mechanic side now. But then at the same time, they're like oil changes, and so not quite. Maybe next week winter tires off,
Yeah,
but
right. Well, let's stay away from the weather. We've been talking about it for 10 weeks now. We're like summer.
I know, I know.
No, that doesn't even, apparently it's not real. We're like next week, definitely next week. 10 weeks later. Anyways, maybe just to backtrack quickly there, because I feel like on a broad spectrum, solar eclipse, is that when the full moon goes over the sun and it just, like beams like harder particles into our atmosphere?
Um, I'm not sure if this one was a full. Sometimes if I'm not going to get to see it, I like don't pay as close attention. But there's either like a full one where it covers the sun completely and you're able to look at it, or there's the partials, sort of things like that. So I can't remember if this one was a partial or I don't think it was a full. Those ones are a little bit more rare. Uh, Maybe I'm wrong there, but yeah, it just crosses the path, and it's just whether it's blocking it fully or just a little bit when it's visible to whichever parts of the world. And it's sort of like it's more like into the energy of because it affects the moon. The eclipse affects the sun and the
Mm.
moon. It just as far as when I say it hit the feels this week, it just magnifies the feels, right? That might come with the moon or just extra emotions or, feeling extra motivated that when it's eclipse season, it just sort of magnifies whatever's going on already. Yeah.
Cool. I'm kind of a guy. I like to learn as I go. Maybe just like you discover new things as you go. And this is something when it comes to spirituality and the universe, I've never really done too much personal research into like the moon cycles and the sun, what it means. I just know the sun makes me feel good. And
Mhm.
like, Mercury is in retrograde. I would kind of almost bundle all that into
Yeah.
the same stuff because it all comes from outside of our world, the sun, the moon, and Mercury. Isn't Mercury's not a planet? I don't know. Is it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, geez, goes to show. Now I'm learning. Here we go, guys. That's what it's about, learning new things. So I guess when it comes to the universe, this isn't even about feelings, but then,
Nope.
so these planets in our atmosphere, is it that they provide different energies and just that their magnetic forces sometime reach our atmosphere and towards us and can give us different energies? Like, what do you know about the energies these planets provide, and what can you tell us about them?
Well, I mean, that Mercury in retrograde is that example you threw out. It does sort of have to do with um, a little bit of like birth charts and which house things are in at certain times of the year. So the houses, I mean, it can get complicated, but um, with each moon phase, sorry, like when I do my moon talk on live, sometimes I'll be like, okay, so this is a big one right now. This one's
Mhm.
affecting Mercury, or perhaps this one's affecting Venus, and whichever house it's in at the time, it there's certain things that are more like sometimes it's this is a really good time to concentrate on career, or this is a really good time to cut because each house sort of represents something different. So just as far as like when it connects to the moon and the energies, there's that sort of answer. I don't know. I guess I don't know whether a lot of people think or feel, or if there's evidence that planets give off a different energy. The moon for sure, because it's just such a big um, sort of presence, and it affects things like our tides. Like it can
Yeah,
move oceans. For
absolutely.
the love of the Lord, it can move oceans.
Literally.
Um, yeah, so I think just as far as that goes, but just when you talk about different planets do something different with it does have to sort of do with the moon cycle and which house those planets are in at the time, and it'll be stronger for people who were maybe born in that time. And then so the
Mhm.
planets in this, it's Leo season, so the horoscope season sort of also correlates with the which a planet house it's in. It's sort of all connected. That's sort of a bigger answer, but yeah, so
No,
it'll be highlighted for people that if it's Pisces season, it's going to affect everybody in the same. It's going to do this for everybody, but this might be your time to really ramp up if you're a Pisces.
cool. I mean, um, thanks for that explanation. Because when Mercury is in retrograde, it's like that week where everyone's like, "Oh, screw it, life's going to heck." But Mercury's in
Well, yeah,
retrograde. We'll get back to it. But like you
and
said,
that's a big one because Mercury in retrograde does a lot. So that's usually what we talked about so much,
right?
is that one's a bigger one. Yeah.
And like you said, the moon literally controls the tide. So if it has that much power and magnetic force or whatever it is, there's no way
Yeah.
it's not affecting everything else in the world, even on a level we don't even see or feel, but something's happening.
Especially when our bodies are, because I've also talked about this on some of my Moon Talk lives, that when our bodies are, what is it? I usually have the specific thing in front of me. The percentage of our bodies that's water, when
Mm,
you think of it that way too. Yes,
true.
it's affecting the tides and things like that, but even still our bodies are, and I even have it's not in front of me, but I even have the breakdown of which parts of our body percentage are water. So like it's like whether it's like our bodies are 78% water or whatever it is, there's a breakdown of it. And I always sort of refer to it, I don't have it memorized, but it is crazy. Like the percentage of water that's your brain, how much water is your muscles made of, your blood, like wow, when you look at it like that, and then you sort of like stop being annoyed if someone's like, if you drank enough water today, you know why. Like if someone's like, are you hydrated enough if you got some brain fog going on?
Mhm.
Well, I can't remember what it is. I wish it was in front of me. But when I've seen the percentage of the brain that was water, I was like, oh, okay, I
That,
see.
yeah, great point. No, that's such a good way
Yeah.
to tie that all back in. The fact that we are like 80% water. And so if the
Yeah.
moon controls the ocean, the biggest, like
Mm.
craziest water mass ever, well, you can do something to a puny little human.
Yeah. I mean, you can ask any teacher or nurse or doctor, most of them will be like, "Oh yeah, we can tell." Like either ears full, the kids are going wild, like at school. Like there's anyone who works with kids or in some sort of emergency place.
Oh,
A lot you'll hear a
yeah.
lot of them say that if a couple days before and after even they're like it's fuller in here. Yeah,
You just brought me back to when I worked at the personal care home
yeah,
and there was a full moon that night.
okay,
We would always be like, "Oh, there's gonna be a full moon," because everyone they have Alzheimer's and dementia, so they can navigate depending on the severity of their cognitive impairment. They can navigate somewhat, but on the full moon days, like literally some days we'd be like, there's going to be a full moon. And there was one that night because the energy in the room was so chaotic.
yeah,
I guess that's why I don't even know if this is getting too out of the weeds, but I wonder why werewolves come out at full moons.
right, right. It's their time to shine. It brings everything out. Yeah, it's certainly crazy. You could do a whole episode on just that. And um was a little bit busier this week, so didn't get to like the full study of the moon talk for this week. But I'm sure there's something connected to just that feeling of like organization a little bit. Um, that spring cleaning, people with the spring cleaning, just so I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with the chaos of the house, so it's time to like buckle in. Yeah,
Well, it's just that's what's so interesting about history. Like, when did spring cleaning start? Why did it start?
yeah,
What, like what caused it all? And why is it that I'm sure it's hundreds of years later, hopefully,
mm,
people still talk about spring cleaning. So I like
yeah,
to just think like before modern civilization, there was a lot more time for like philosophers and science, like astrologists to really, I mean, I'm sure these studies are still going on today, but that was all they had was studying constellations, and they lived in
yeah,
darkness. They didn't have as much light pollution as we do now. So if you would go outside back in that day, you had a full
mhm,
skyline of beautiful
yeah,
constellations, and there's just, yeah, they like that was what they studied more back in the day because that's kind of all they had. Very generic math, I'm sure. And the fact that they even invented Pythagorean theorem,
yep,
um, and all that, like these breakthroughs they've had in history, it's just
mhm,
unbelievable. It's the fact that whatever time you were born in, whether that was Aristotle or now, it's probably been a
yeah,
pretty cool, interesting life. But obviously, being
yeah.
born in 2024, as hard done by as we may feel sometimes, it's the best time to ever be alive in human history.
And learning about that stuff is really, whether or not you read the books or not, or if anybody has science centers close to or where they live. Um, there's an astronomer that comes to ours who's quite or no, he's an astronomy photographer, sorry, and he's that comes to ours. It's quite popular in the area, and he'll do star talk about, okay, so here's the winter sky, so there's one every season, and you go and they like put it up on the big projector, like you sit in the big dome theater, right? And they put it up and then they show you the constellations and teach you a bit of the history of them. I used to go all the time. Me and Steve have been to quite a few of them too. Or if there was something different coming, like a comet or something different visible, you could actually see this galaxy right now or whatever, they would do a talk. I encourage anybody who's interested in that, or just because when you look up and our famous ones, that if you're not someone that knows a lot about them, are the dippers, right? Oh, there's the Big Dipper, there's the Little Dipper. But when you just hear some of the history on some of them, it's just fun. Yeah.
And I just love like when we look up at the Big Dipper, it's maybe like almost like a primal thing. Like everyone from the dawn of time, like anyone you could think of has probably looked up at that Big Dipper. So we've all done that. We've all done that same thing together. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, to know that you're looking up at the exact same thing as someone on the other side of the like, it's just,
Or
that's to me
someone,
what's wild. I think I've said before that the sky and the ocean, to me, both the vastness of it. When you look up, you can't see the other side. When you look out to the ocean, you cannot see it depends where you are. You can't see the other side. So it's the vastness is pretty wild. Now, of course, there's the southern hemisphere as well. So the people in the south aren't looking at the exact same sky as you, but geez, still knowing that when you look up, somebody way over there is looking up at the same thing is pretty amazing.
I'm always absorbing information from all kinds of different ideas, perspective, and angles. And whether I agree or disagree, it's not really
Yeah.
the point. I just like hearing things and hearing different perspectives. And one of these lately, this one's a really wild one out there, but um, uh, this person seems to think there is aliens, but they're living in our ocean. And
Oh,
and apparently
okay.
the aliens are running the world, and there's people that go and consult the ocean aliens to figure out what to do. And they think that soon now, we're going to announce that these ocean aliens are here.
Oh,
Whether Whether that
Okay.
sounds extreme. I was listening to that yesterday, and Bailey was like, "What are you listening to?" And I was like, "I have no idea." But I do not think there's going to be any ocean aliens. But hey, wouldn't that be crazy if there really was?
Yeah, used to just be worried about sharks in the water, and now we,
Like personally, I think like those things are alien enough. If you think
yeah,
about, have you seen those 20-foot colossal squids that are like
oh
100 feet under at the oil rigs?
no,
Oh, I'll have to say I'll put a link to it on the Facebook page.
yes,
Um, Obviously there's so many species underneath the sea they've never seen, but there's a very
yes,
creepy video where they have this camera pan down at like a deep sea oil rig, and
okay,
there's a squig with like 20-foot long tentacles just floating there, and it looks like what would be an alien, but it's a
mm,
squid. But so much
yeah,
the the ocean is almost as interesting as the vast unknown of space because
yeah,
we feel like we know the ocean because we know we can go in it. There's fish in there. We utilize it to our advantage in just everyday life
yeah,
more than we think about. But with the space, it's kind of off limits. You can't access it anytime you want. You can't, play in space like you can play in water. So
right.
it's pretty, I don't even kind of got off the weeds of space and oceans, but very cool stuff.
Well, and eventually, if there's ever, commercials when they talk about, eventually, is there going to be commercial flight to space? Um, Building things on. Steve and I went like in the science center at one point. We watched one of the movies um, of like when they're going to start building things on Mars, like
Hmm.
tiny livable city. And it's all valid and workable. I mean, it takes time, right? Going up and down. But geez, watching that was like, holy, like really? Maybe I don't know if in my lifetime, but yeah, it's pretty amazing up there. And yes, everything takes extra time because you're right, it's not as accessible. You can't just dive in and go. But yeah, that's sort of what makes it extra special. You know what I mean?
It's what do you think about what do you think about that expansion to Mars and like potentially being an interplanetary species? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that expansion to Mars stuff was based on like little research sites and stuff, is what they're building, but sustaining it so people can live for, small amounts of time. So maybe there's a little less back and forth. Uh, I think it's amazing. I think like the way they put it, just for the research and because we're just still learning. So I think that part's fantastic. Um, just different ways to sustain being up there for longer. And, you know, when you can go to a museum that has a moon rock or something like that, you're just like, the stuff that they learn from just that moon rock, and that's just the moon.
Right?
Like you think that when you get to the moon, if you're going to land on it, hey, I'm going to the moon, great. You would almost think in your mind that when you look up, everything's going to be closer. It's not. That's how big and vast it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think any way of maybe that was the point of space flight starting to go up and learn when you think of even just the magnitude of building the space station and how much
Mhm.
time that's taken and
Who
what they
figured
do
that
on
out?
there. Yeah, what they do on there and what they've learned from it, and the images that come back with Hubble and just all of that. So I'm definitely for expansion and different ways to learn. It is cresting, it can cross a line maybe with like, okay, but now you're like, are you like damaging the planet by building on it? And I know there's all that to it too, but
Hmm.
it's great to just find ways to keep learning in places that are not so easily accessible. And just the fact that they can do it is like, there was just so much in that little movie that I didn't know was going on, that they had started already. You're sort of watching it thinking, oh, this is 80 years down the road. And they're like, they've already started in on these things, and you're like, what? So, yeah,
It's cool stuff. Like, yeah, I would think that as much as people seem to think human beings, because let's take our planet for example, and human beings are slowly but surely killing our planet. I think that's a fact with
yeah,
CO2 in the atmosphere and mass harvesting resources. I think
yeah,
eventually there's going to be wars for fresh water. Like, eventually our resources will be tapped. And I think that's the part of the reason to expand planets is because
mhm,
as much as a parasite humans are, because people have the theory that if humans never existed on planet Earth, there would be the food chain and everything would work itself out on our
yeah,
planet. But since we're such apex predators, we kind of just took over everything way too fast and disrupted, I think, potentially the flow of how our Earth is supposed to live itself, maybe. And but I'm like pro-human, and I love Earth as I love Earth, but I
yeah.
think it'd be cool one day if we were like cross galaxy species and we like colonize the whole galaxy. I think that'd be so cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like obviously Earth is beautiful and we should preserve it, but I
Hmm.
wouldn't be surprised one day if there was wars between planets at certain points.
I mean, they touched base on that a little bit. Most of the idea of that film we watched was for like research and things like that, and for people to be. But then they did do a little bit at the end of like, if we can do that, imagine, is this something that we could do so people could eventually live here, not just research people coming up to work? And they did just a little bit. And after you've been mind blown enough over the tiny research stations, you're like, wow.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah,
doesn't Jeff Bezos have that Blue Origin space company? And I don't know if it's like active where you can just always sign up, but I thought it was something like $50,000 and you can go into orbit.
there. I don't know a lot. I know I've heard that jet around once in a while. I don't know. I like. I guess I don't even know. Is that something they've even started? Has anybody done that yet? Like I know you can. Like that.
Well,
Some
so
people are like,
there's
you've
been a
got all
couple
that money.
crews that went into space already. Like Jeff Bezos himself has been to space.
Okay, okay, then
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I if money was a no object, because I love it so much that I'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, like I love watching all that. And whenever there's a mission going on, I'm like NASA Live is on my phone, or doing the whole thing. I gotta watch the launch and the landing, and I listen to Mission Control because that's part of the live. Love all that, but I'd probably throw up the. Is that something you do? If someone like handed you the ticket, would you take the opportunity to go?
Just to orbit? Probably if it was 100% safe. Like part
Mm,
of me has too much. I'm like a calculated risk kind of guy. Like
okay.
that submarine crew that went down and there was like seven of them that lost their lives. Like
Yeah.
to me, it's not like I would fear almost the same thing happening going into space. I know there might be a little more testing and whatnot that has gone
Mm,
into space travel, and so you can probably more often than not safely get out there. But I mean, you see it every day, even with like helicopters. Kobe
yeah.
Bryant went down in a helicopter crash way before his time, and part of me would love to do something like that, but then like my curiosity doesn't get the best of me sometimes. Like even when it
Okay.
comes to like skydiving or bungee jumping. I know I don't feel like I have anything to prove other than like I don't want to like the bungee cord to accidentally snap and there you
Right.
go, or your parachute doesn't rip out. And I almost put
Right.
categorize that in the same realm. Like, is it really worth it? I don't know. Like Google has enough good pictures, I'm sure I can look at.
Right. Right. I mean, some people do it for the thrill, right? Like if you're like one of those thrill seekers, and if you're not, then yeah, you just sort of, um, yeah, because you never know those things like bungee jumping and a lot of those things are sort of very risk inducing. Yeah.
It's almost like you're putting yourself in a situation where, if this goes wrong, I lose my life. And then,
Yeah.
so there's probably that split second you're like, oh my God. And then you're like, you get that relief, and then that's that feeling. But I'm not chasing that feeling whatsoever.
I mean, I'm not a giant roller coaster fan. I won't get on a roller coaster. But if someone gave me the opportunity, maybe even just to see, because you're right, there are lots of great pictures, especially now, but it just that idea, I guess, for me of like being able to look back on the earth and even in between, because you are closer, even though it's still quite so vast, you are closer. You just, when you see pictures of the earth that people have taken from the
Mm,
moon, it's just like, and vice, like, yeah, it's just so, anyway, I could go on with that forever.
right? Like, no, you're so true. Like, when we look at Canada as a map, if you actually went to space, you'd be like, that's the map
Right? Yeah,
without the
like
border
that's,
lines. But like when you look at like the ones with the Rockies built into it and where it
yeah.
shows the landscapes, like that's
Mm,
probably what it actually looks like.
I know, yeah, some of those pictures from up there are wild, or when they post a picture of or Aurora Borealis from up there. Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Anyway,
Natural beauties
like,
of our Earth. It's unbelievable.
are you a fan of like? I'll just before we get to your feels for the week. That just made me think of that. Are you a fan of flying then? Like, if you had the choice to drive somewhere for 6 hours to get there, or fly because money was no object, or you just like, no, no, put me in the car, I'm good.
I'd probably fly. We're forgetting
Okay.
6 hour range, but depends. If we're in like the 2 hour range, I'd probably drive. If it was
Yeah.
like
Okay.
drive for 2 hours, fly for 30, probably drive for two. I think there's definitely a threshold where I would probably cross where I'm like, makes more sense. But then if it's, yeah, just in this question alone, probably fly, but I have no issue driving 6 hours too. If I was just like, you
Yeah.
have, an empty schedule, just
Mm,
if nothing to do after, nothing to do before, just what do you want to do? Drive six or fly?
yeah.
Um, yeah, I'd probably,
But you're not nervous when you're up there. You're not a nervous.
no, no.
Okay.
No, I think with flights, I mean, obviously some go down, but my mind goes
Mm,
to like there's thousands and thousands and thousands of flights going on every single day. What are the
yeah.
odds that the one I get on and every, once or twice a year, what are
Yeah.
the odds that one goes down? So doesn't
Yeah.
make
They've
sense.
mastered that one pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. But before we get out of this whole space thing, I always found it interesting. My stepdad Wayne, he's super into space. He's got like the shed he built in his backyard, and he built like a hatch, a little hatch he could sit in to put his telescope out of and watch the stars from the comfort. Like he has it heated, and then he can sit in this little hatch and watch the stars.
Okay, well,
Uh,
you're gonna have to call your parents when this one's done and let them know that I'm moving in.
yeah, no, you would love it there. It's quite the paradise over at my place. That's why it took me so long to leave. But Wayne, this huge star guy, like he's in Costa Rica right now. He's like sending me pictures of the sky. He's like, can you see Saturn? I'm like, I don't know. But he told me all of that to get to he told me that if they were accepting volunteers to have the first crew go to Mars to like build build out like the first livable space station
Yep,
there, he said he would be a volunteer. To me, that's
that's
like
awesome.
that's a I don't know if I would have too much FOMO. I don't know. I couldn't do it, but maybe, I mean, he was in the military as well, so maybe his Call of Duty is too strong where it's like if
Mm.
our planet needs someone to go out there and build a habitable space for the rest of the humans, I guess he's an honorable guy.
And it's definitely a test in like because you can't just show up in your work clothes and start hammering. When you watch um those spacewalks live, the everything is so like just to replace a bolt is a 3 hour. Like it's also, and that's the same thing. You got to be out there knowing the environment. You can't just be, how thick are the gloves and the suit and wow, it would be an exercise in patience and uh just realizing the longevity of something because okay, we're going out there to build this, but we can't just whip up this building in 3 months like we're used to doing it downtown on Earth. You know what I mean? That would be, I think that's quite commendable that he sort of recognizes that. But
I think,
that's awesome. A little like heated space to just
yeah,
sit and look up at the stars. I love that.
yeah, and he's got like that's where he pots all his plants, so he keeps his, keeps his garden going through the winter. It's pretty cool little shed.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, see, that's handy when you can do that, especially your guys' winter peg winters.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
it gets, I think we honestly, though, from what I understand it, when we like to think we have it so hard done by, but it's just as bad as any prairie province. And you guys
Yes.
do hit those levels of like -50. I think Edmonton got -50 last year or this year.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it just becomes a thing. People to start be like, "Oh, Winnipeg, it's so cold." But what? But what is putting the feels in your Tuesday this week, Jax? What's happening in your world?
Obviously, like I said earlier, this beard is getting super
Yep.
long because of this book. I know it's been every week. I mean, the last 10 weeks, I feel like I've talked about this book, and for the last 6, 7 months, it's been the book, the book. So I'm really excited to just have some new freshness come up. I basically have four images need to be changed in my book, which very easy to fix. I got those tips this morning, actually. So those will be very easy to fix. And then they said if I pay them $30, they'll basically wrap it up and put a bow on it for me. So close. It feels so good. And yeah, just so excited to be finished this book. And then I'm kind of the person where I don't multitask. I try not to because I know it's a losing game for me.
Okay,
And I need to almost put all of my energy and focus and time into a singular thing,
got it.
or else everything's gonna derail. If I try to do 5 things at once, none of it's gonna get done.
Okay.
So I've put all of my eggs into one basket here, and the deadline was actually April the 8th, and it looks like we might beat that deadline by about a bit of a week, 8, 9, 10 days. So, hey, I'm really proud that I set a deadline and, worked with an illustrator, used my own time to write a story, edit it, have people edit it, have people read over it, and everything that came along with writing a book and publishing one. There's so much people don't know, like getting an ISBN number,
Yeah,
so that you're in the Canada Public Library Registry, and you got to
it's
get
gonna be
your own
awesome.
barcode, and you gotta, like I said, get your illustrations, get your cover page art, you gotta write your story, and then when it comes to selling it, I am the publisher, so I have to do the marketing. I have to create the channels for people to put the sales into, and then you have
Mhm.
to do all the tax codes for all that. So
Yeah.
it's been a grind, and it's so awesome that I'm almost done because I put all my eggs into this basket. When I finished my cross Canada marathon, I said, my marathon is over, but my fight for a cure is not. And basically, this whole project is to help find a cure. But if I didn't finish this book, then there is
Yeah.
no project to help find a cure. So there was a lot riding on this, and I'm just so happy that um, we're basically there. I mean, Darian can change those 4 images probably in a half an hour,
Yep.
and then we're done. Slept in a little bit today, and so I haven't really gotten to any of that today, but probably after this podcast, I'll send those images to Darian and then get back to Chris and just let him know. I'll be like, hey, I'll send you that $30, whatever you need to do to put the bow on it.
Yeah.
And I am done. Then I know it's off to the printer. Then it's about a 2.5, 3 week turnaround. And
Okay.
the cool thing is they're called marquee book printing, something along those lines.
Yep.
And my sales representative actually reached out to me. I think he followed the journey, heard I was doing a book, and he was
Oh.
like, hey, we do book printing. We actually have really great prices, really great customer service. If you ever interested in printing your book, it'd be cool if you printed it with us.
Oh.
And I love the initiative that they had to reach out to me. Chris
Mm.
Buckland, great guy. And
Shout out.
um,
Love it.
they've been working so, I honestly think, like, I don't know the level of service they're supposed to provide someone, but every time I've had a question or a concern about the process and formatting and my time and always Chris has been there 100% of the way, supporting me and helping me get to this finish line. So close to getting that book out. And then we get to drive to their Canadian company. So they have an office in, I think, Toronto and Montreal, Quebec City. So I asked them to do the printing in Quebec City so that when they print, instead of $500 for shipping, it would have costed. Um,
Right.
I'm just gonna go pick it up myself. So it'll be a little road trip day. Um, those of you
About how far is that? Like, how many hours would it take you to get to Quebec City?
four, four
Oh, that's not
there,
bad at
four
all.
back.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. People seem to like in Grand Falls, it's 4 hours to Moncton, 4 hours to Quebec City. So you're right in the middle.
Oh, well, that's not bad. That's awesome. Just little gifts that keep getting dropped, right? Like being able to save on the shipping and, having those people reach out to you and, hey, we can do this. That's awesome. It helps with the big monumental task, right?
Yeah, I'm just the second I have that book in my hand, um, of course, like there's
Feel
still there's
amazing.
still none of the wording is gonna get messed up, and I doubt any of the illustrations will get messed up. But even if there is a baby hiccup on one of the pages, I don't think people will be too hard on me for it, hopefully. I hope I'm not held up. Like, there's been so much work and preparation and lack of negligence that I really hope if there was a hiccup on the first print around, I think people have been so kind to me, and I think most people will be pretty
Mm.
lenient and just want the story. Basically, it doesn't need
So
to be perfect.
do they do the thing where they print one and let you look at it, or is it just a batch at once?
I think I could have that option, but as for time
Yeah,
constraint,
it's time.
if I waited 2.5 weeks for that, I don't know the length, but
Like,
you
yeah,
for the first print they can do for you, it takes about 2.5, 3 week turnaround.
okay,
So,
the time. Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's fair. No, and that's the thing, right? Maybe there's a little bit of nervousness or anxiety about, that sort of when it's something we can't control, right? Someone else is doing it and you put all that hard work into it. You want to see that. It's like people who are cake decorators and then they take the cake over and the person cuts into it. You can't watch. You're sort of given the control to the next step of the process. I get it. But I think hopefully people be write it just okay with whatever comes out of that. It's the heart of it that matters.
yeah, and basically what the book will hopefully do, like what I found when I was doing the cross Canada journey, like we kind of built a community. It was a place people knew there'd be a live basically going from the morning to the night. So, and it was, I think, potentially cool to track the progress and be like, oh,
Yeah.
where is it now? What's going on? And what are Rob and Jax up to kind of deal. So maybe I'm a little too like out there, but I think it's not just a book, it's like for the cause and
Mhm.
for like the even the content, like 45 days I'm going to be on the road filming updates and little snippets and being live for people to watch from morning till night. Just trying to curate, like that's the way I see it is if I give you, in my mind, it's like 45 days of really good long form, solid content, and all everyone has to pay is 24.99 to, it's kind of like you get your book, so you even get a product, you get a live stream to watch, you get
Yep.
content to watch, you get a book, and you know $10 from that book is going to cancer research. I just think it's hopefully it's just like a good everyone wins all around. Cancer wins, people
Yes.
at home who, fill their free time, get to have something fun and hopefully engaging to watch. And
Hmm.
I'm just trying to put all kinds of good to come into this. And then the last thing is though, there's always the option where I go out there and no one shows up. But that's not where the win or the lose lies with me. The win for me lies with the fact that all the trials and tribulations I just went through in the last 6.5, 7 months to get to the point of actually releasing a book, that's where the win and the loss lies for me. If I never got my book in, then I would have felt like I lost. But since I'm going to have my book in, I will have copies, I will get out there. And if nobody ever showed up, the fact that I put in all this work my last 2 years of my life, or maybe if you consider even the training and everything before it, like
Hmm.
6 years of my life dedicated to wanting to help with the cause of cancer research. If I go out there and it just doesn't click for some reason with just the general
Yeah.
public, then so be it. At least I know in my good conscious heart, like, I tried, and hopefully people out there, if they're not going to support my cause for cancer research, hopefully they'll support someone else's. And I don't need to be the be all end all when
Right.
it comes to supporting cancer research. I just hope if it's not me, it's someone else. And it doesn't need to be a
Mm.
lot. 24.99 from, you know, 1,000 different Canadians makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I think, being the huge Seinfeld fan that I am, that would be like Bizarro Jax. I don't know if you've seen that episode. No one showing up, that'd be the Bizarro world. That would be, I don't see that, but I see what you're saying, totally acknowledging that. I'm sure, all those thoughts cross the mind. And once you have that your first tangible product in your hands, all that work and everything. But you know, putting it out there and the little bit of the advertising and the word of mouth, and you're sort of doing all of that stuff, and even just being presence in a store, right, wherever you decide to set up in each of the cities. um I think you're definitely someone who's approachable. You really, you're passionate about the topic, you're passionate about your journey. So even if someone doesn't know who you are sitting there, um I think it's just going to draw the people in. So just everything, that's one of those things. I think when the universe is like, yeah, you put all this hard work, you've done this, but the other aspects of your world will help. Just who you are, and being there and everything, I think will help. But
Well,
I get that. What if, if no one shows up, well then, and that's a very, smart way to look at it, as long as, that word of mouth is out there. But in my opinion, that would be the Bizarro Jack's world where no one shows up.
well, all you can do is your best and
Yeah,
focus on the things you can control. And I feel
right.
like I put in everything I can. And what I cannot control is other people getting in their vehicles and coming down to find me.
Right.
I mean, I was amazed. Like when I was going across Canada, it was like unbelievable to me the amount of people that came to the side of a highway. Now I understand it's two different things because it's like one guy, the first guy who's walking across Canada is literally like, is this true? Can we like there he is on the
Yeah.
side of the highway. He came
Yes.
here all the way from St. John's, Newfoundland. Like this is crazy. We
Mm.
got to go meet him and make our donation. Whereas with the intensity lowering, like it's still a hardcore trip, 45 days in a row, and from morning till night, I'm doing the book tour, and then from that night, I actually drive to my next city. So I didn't make a drive more than 4 hours. So if I did wrap up around 8 or 9, I do get to my next place around midnight, 1 a.m. But that's every day for 45 days. And that
Mhm.
will be intense and exhausting, but I don't think it might be seen as much from the general public. So I don't think I'm going to get the same level of support and
Right,
everything as I did on the marathon, just because of how crazy that is and what it represents and everything. But
right.
we'll just see what happens. I'm
Yeah.
see what happens.
And just, I mean, the main thing, I wrote it down when you said it to like bring it back because that's kind of the main thing of it all. You're, you referenced putting good out there, all the stuff that you're doing, for the greater cause and putting good out there. Um, Whatever level it comes back at, when you put good out, it comes back. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it'll
You get what
be,
you give.
that's right. That's one of my, if just fun fact, because you said it, that's one of my favorite songs to karaoke. Is that one by the New Radicals? You get what you give.
Yeah, I'll have to go listen to that one after this. Um,
A good one.
Yesterday I was just, you know how it goes, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels,
Yeah.
very, the very fast, just brain numbing, just scroll, feels good on the brain. Well, I landed on a Steve Irwin video, and he was like in a passion filled, like not a rant, but he was a passion filled exchange, I would say, with an interviewer asking him why he cared so much about animals. And he was just
Um,
basically like, I don't need anything in this world other than the opportunity to care for animals. He's like, if me caring for animals led me to like nothing, he's like, that's what I'm here for. That's my purpose. And it just inspired me because I was like, I kind of felt the same way as Steve Irwin, where he has his animals and mine is cancer patients. But if you feel so strongly about what you do and what your purpose is, and
yeah.
nothing else, I just find like the content and the happiness, and there's just no stress when you're doing when you just feel like you're following your true destiny.
Yeah. Because there's probably also, just to bounce back on that, I think there's a lot of pressure for people if they're not sure what their passion is or what direction they need to go. So now there's like the pressure and everything, anxiety over that. And then it's like, well, now I'm not even doing that because I don't know what it is. So not only are you, really feeling at peace and moving because you're doing what you love, but you don't have that, like you've figured it out. You know what it is, and that helps you keep going. And not everybody can do that. And yeah, there's lots of pressure sometimes. Maybe some people haven't figured it out, but just that, it's great when you can zero in what gives you that like thirst for
Yeah.
more that you love. I could do this every day, or that's what I'm passionate about. It's funny because I hadn't seen him in a really long time. And one of my scrolling yesterday, I think I passed a Steve Irwin video too, although it was the one where the interviewer asked him if he drinks coffee. Did you see that one?
No.
Because he's so like, and he's
Yeah.
like, no, no, I don't. And he just went on to like, I think I had a cup like 20 years ago and I'm still really,
Yeah. Literally. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I had to giggle at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just to go back on what you were saying, it does help when you find that one thing.
Mm.
But it was funny, I was having a conversation with my mother the other day, and she's always into a new thing. It's like it's a new craft every other week. And she was just saying like, I'm always switching my thing. I can never just find the one thing that I think I love. She's like, right now I think it's knitting, finger knitting.
Mm.
But because she's done these amazing things. She used to do these things called book stacking. So now she's got this huge collections of thousands of books because she has these bookshelves and she color coordinates them to like
Oh,
look like really fun art pieces, really.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah,
I need to see this.
I'll have to post one on the Facebook or something. Hers is called Book Stacking Boutique on Facebook or Instagram. And it's
Okay.
just like you stack up these books and make really nice, aesthetically pleasing, color coordinated.
Yeah.
And hers are like 4 bookshelves. Like it's huge. It's not even just a couple books. It's like
Yeah.
hundreds of books to build these murals. And um
I'm all
she's
for it.
always like that was her thing for a while, but she's always changing. And what I think it is like there is going to be that one thing that you want to love and dive into and you're going to want to do forever. But I think it's still so important to have like other things outside of it. If like you're not just going to have that one thing that you can do all day, every day that soothes the soul. I mean, there's going to be some variety in there, but hopefully there is an overarching thing that really like drives you. Like I like to think about like hikers or surfers, the very
Mm,
hippy dippier ones who will literally like live out of a van on the side of a mountain
yeah.
eating granola and drinking spring water because they'll get rid of every other thing in life to do what they love so much. And um, I'm not telling everyone to go live in a van and quit everything they're doing, but once you can actually hone in on that one thing that you love
Mm,
so much and really lights that fire in your heart, then you can actually slowly meld your life into a lifestyle that gets you closer to that true self of
mm,
yours. And yeah,
yes. And yeah, maybe it's just a hobby, or maybe you can end up turning it into something for work or whatever. But yes, and I do agree. I think it's important to have other things too. I mean, one of the greatest parts of being human is the ability to. I mean, was that week one that card about learning, keep learning, learning new things, trying new skills? We have that advantage because we're human beings. So, yeah, it's great to sort of dip in. Like sometimes I joke, if it helps your mom feel any better, sometimes I joke that I sort of have like a little bit of every aisle of Michael's in the house somewhere. Scrapbooking box, stuff with like crocheting and yarn. Look at all these stickers. Like, because you try different things and do them for a little while, and because you never know what you can't just look at something on the shelf and be like, oh, I can do that. I'd love to do that. That's my vibe. You gotta try
right.
it, right? And then there's a fun and a joy in it as well. So I think that's awesome to still have that ability to keep testing stuff, but there is that little bit of freedom and happiness that can come from just being able to know what lights your fire.
Absolutely. And I mean, and if
Yeah.
you're someone where you're just content, you don't really have something
Mm,
where you're like, I don't really have anything, but I'm just content, just puttering around doing my thing.
yep.
Maybe you're a mother or you're a grandmother and that's your passion.
Yep.
That is still a life very well lived. So I sometimes I feel like maybe I go off on this like you need to go all in on your dream and your whatever's burning the fire in you. Like that's not the case whatsoever. Some people won't
Mm,
be satisfied until they feel like they're living truly to themselves. But there's people out there that they just want to be a parent and a good one, and that's what
mm-hmm.
their life's goal is. So don't
Yep.
let us tell you what it is. Your life's goal doesn't need to be super intense and
Right.
crazy. It can be very mild and
Yeah.
conservative. And it's still a white life well lived as long as you're happy and healthy
Yep.
and you're not miserable every day and you're just happy to wake up and love the people around you. That's what's truly important. And then if
It
you are
is.
someone that has that, there's more out there, then
Mm,
there's two sides to the coin.
you bet. Yeah, you bet. And people, I mean, even people that enjoy doing something, if it's a little bit more calmer, there's always that opportunity to just have little getaway and do something for a couple hours that's a
Mhm.
different type of joy. So yeah, it's that was one of the other little things that I had on my list. I because someone who's so passionate about because it was something new that I learned that I just thought was fun. I learned of a guy who's insanely passionate about the library, and I guess he's this.
Mm.
Have you seen this guy? I think he's on TikTok. I haven't, and then he's also on Instagram or whatever. But I heard about him in an interview, and he was talking about the library and the things you can do at the library and the things you can get at the library. Now he's from the US and he's partnered up with like PBS and he's going to do this whole segment with them and he's so excited and he's sort of turned this into a thing. But even I learned some stuff. I mean, I know you go in the library and there's like a list of little classes being offered that week, or you go there and use the printer because you're out of ink and the books and whatever. But and it might be different because it's the States, but in the interview he was like, you can rent cake pans at the library, power tools. I'm like, what? And of course, they're all like put away in the back. But he's like, there's so many resources. Again, it was the States, but you can sort of do a version of like homeschooling at the library if you're someone who you're anxious, you don't want to go into a place. He's like, oh yeah, you can do your whole schooling at the library. It's like, what? So that was really neat to learn. And this is just a guy who loves books, who thinks everyone should be reading. He's worked in libraries and he just thinks they're amazing tools. The library card is, most places free and it can really offer you lots of things. And this guy, that's his vibe. That's
That
his passion. He's teaching people about libraries. I thought it was awesome.
Wow, that truly is awesome. What a wonderful example to really tie that
Yeah.
all in. Like, he loves books, he loves the libraries, and now that's his life, books and
Yeah.
libraries. And like he doesn't need more than just his books and his libraries, and now he gets to have his books and his libraries all day, every day. And like that
And
is what
he's
it's about.
so excited about the PBS thing too. He's like, I know that's like older and it was big when I was a kid. I sort of get the sense he might be around my age. That was, bigger when I was younger. And he's like, I know some people, just think PBS is for old people. He's so soul filled. You can tell just when he talks about it how excited he is about this PBS thing. So I thought that was fun. And he doesn't even work at like you said, some life things sort of happened and he had to get different jobs, more hours, more pay. But he still that's his spare time is still libraries, promoting them, volunteering at them. Like he just so yeah, sometimes you
Amazing.
can't do your passion all the time. He could for a little while and then life threw a pivot and he had to do this instead, but he spends extra time still putting the energy towards what lights him up. I thought it was so fun.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing too. At the end of the day, most of us only see the success stories. We don't see the people that live their
Mm,
dream as long as they can, pivot for a while because it's the
yeah.
only choice you have left, that or be homeless. And then, when you've built yourself back up, you return back to your dream. You don't give up, you don't quit. You
Yeah.
do it at all costs. I was wondering, so the PBS docu series didn't break them free of the shackles.
I think it hasn't started yet. Uh, and if I remember right, it'd be like a constant segment that he's going to do, if I remember right. I think it's coming up. I don't think he's started it yet, or maybe the interview was a bit old. I started following him on my Instagram, but yeah, who knows? I mean, how much money there is with PBS, but yeah, just it was even a fun conversation that I thought was amusing listening to this week, kind of after a couple weeks ago, talking about books and some of the stuff that's been going on with books these days. Not to get political, but the book banning and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was just
Mhm.
that was kind of fun in this week too. It was like, wow, like this person's all in. That's fun
Right?
to watch. Someone who's just giving her.
That's one thing. Books are its own universe. Like
Yes.
that's it's cool. If you're a book reader and you're in that universe, there's so much to learn. And I'm sure a lot of people dip their toe into it, read a couple books here and there, but never fully immerse themselves into the book community where you're reading
Yes.
all the time, comparing notes with others, and you're just thousands of books deep. That's when you're really probably immersed in a very, very cool, unique world.
Yeah, even the people, I do admire people who can even, like, they're so immersed that they'll even read books on topics that maybe necessarily aren't there. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, David, after page 3, I gotta put it down. Like, I'm someone who needs, there's gotta be an interest there.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm like, I don't know about this topic, so there is no interest, but I'm wanting to learn about it. Otherwise, I don't know if I could read all of, but those are people who just, yeah, they definitely walk away with something from that.
Right. And so before we get into like a 4-hour podcast here, um, maybe we should read our card. I don't, we'll see what it has to say, maybe see what general thoughts come to us, but maybe this might be a card that just sends
Mhm.
us into our week with good vibes. Maybe we don't even, depending on how powerful the card is, we can really go into it, but maybe it's just a card that leaves us
Yeah.
with good intention, a good feeling for the week, and then um, we might have
Oh,
to wrap it up because I know time is getting away from us here.
yeah. No, you got busy stuff to do today. Here
Yes.
we go. So it is a affirmation. Haven't they all, like the last few? I think they have been. Okay, so today's is an affirmation, and it says, take a few moments to note a gift or opportunity that you have been ignoring or taking for granted, and give thanks from your heart.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good
there's
one.
probably, yeah, a gift or opportunity. Yeah, sometimes there are those things around, we don't necessarily see them, or if we do, we're like, oh, I'll put that on the back burner. Sometimes when we're given a gift or an opportunity, we don't jump on it. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's universal timing that's coming on. So yeah, that's a good one that's asking you to sit and think of, um, where is there maybe opportunity or a gift been given to you that you've been ignoring, that you could sort of bring back into your everyday and be like, okay, it might be time to utilize this. Yeah.
I think the people that one was for probably just hit them like a bag of bricks. So
Yes.
yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. And then the saying on the top of it is, we are all more blind to what we have than what we have not.
We're more blind to what we have. Right, because we're not blind to what we have not, because we want what we have not. And then we'll be
Right.
like, well, I'll just be happy when I finally get that. And then you get it,
Yes.
you're like, well, now I'll be happy when I finally get that. It's a
Yeah.
burning cycle.
And I also think that that's also a good thing to do to check in, because opportunity can mean different things to different people, and sometimes something might be there that you don't see as an opportunity. So, when these, like I said, the back of this card is, affirmation, some of them are reflection. It thought, real thought. If you're sitting there thinking about journaling your week, your day, whatever, really, these are the things to really dip into, because sometimes, like I said, if you don't recognize it as an opportunity or a gift, it's that switch when you do. That's sort of what this card is sort of saying. Take the moment to recognize where those are, and okay, I haven't fully utilized that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to take one quick second here to thank all of our listeners, the
That,
consistent ones and the new ones alike. We love you
yeah.
guys. I want to give a special thank you to Alexandra and AD. I know they listen from top to bottom every episode. They send messages, leave comments. So I thought I'd throw you guys your names out there. Love you guys. And subscribe if you haven't.
Yep.
Tune back in every Tuesday. We drop another episode of Putting the Feel Back in Tuesday. And any closing thoughts, Wendy? Any last things you want to mention before we head out here?
I don't think so. Just yay, we made it to 10 and we're halfway. So I'm really excited. I think these ones have been great. And I think you said earlier that we really enjoy meeting and coming and doing this. So let's see what the next 10 bring and where it goes. And as per usual, if there is something, you know, you guys want us to touch on, shout it out, let us know. And everybody just keep putting that hard work in. I think you are a very good example these past, you know, of course, is 6 months, but talking about it on the podcast and seeing that that deadline's almost there. Our hard work pays off. That was the big hint in today's, I think. Putting good out is what's going to bring
Does.
the good back. So we got her.
We got her. And I'm one last thing to say. I think I've really enjoyed our last two episodes, the vibe, and just
Yeah.
let us know. I mean, I keep asking you guys to let us know about this and that, but Wendy and I are taking a more looser approach, maybe just trying to bring in way more randomness. It's less, definitely less to a point and more just two friends having conversation, peeking into each other's minds, and hopefully you guys enjoy that coming along with us. So I've loved this. I have so much fun. I always can't wait to hear what Wendy's thinking. And yeah, thank you so much, Wendy.
Right, and same thing. It's great to do that because when I'm like, same thing, can't wait to hear what you're thinking, and it's like, what's happening there, what's new, and it ends up dipping into conversation about whatever, is it the past or growing up, and so you're just naturally learning and hitting other things. I love it. Well, everybody, have just such a great week then. Whatever you're up to, I will make sure to post a picture on the thing of our card today, and great job, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.